Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise podcast, episode 61, presented by Celtics Talk Weekly. And this is another fan series. I'm your host, Griffin Aldrich. Alongside me is my co host, Seamus Zarlingo. We have a very, very special guest on today. We have Carl Mcdonald joining the fan series for episode 61. So, you guys all know the drill at home. Carl, give a little rundown of yourself for everyone at home. Give a little introduction. Why don't you?
Appreciate it. First thing first, again, thank you guys for having me and for reaching out to have me.
Of
Really
course.
appreciate it. So I'm just a guy living in Connecticut. And as we mentioned, I do create content on TikTok as the Cage Express. I'm mainly talking about comic books, wrestling, and of course basketball, especially as a Boston Celtics fan. Um, I've been a fan of basketball since I was about 10 years old, and I really got into the Celtics through my cousin. And it wasn't just because of him, but because of the team that we had at that time: Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen, the legends right there. And, after LeBron, was really giving us the word all that time, I kind of didn't stop watching, but I did keep up with the Celtics and basketball as much as I could. And I would say I started watching again mainly when Isaiah Thomas was really leading that team in the best way that he could. And yeah, just I've been a Celtics fan since I was a kid, and being able to be a fan of theirs for this long and being able to see them long enough to win a championship has been one of my personal favorite moments, probably my favorite moment as a fan, because the most winningest team in the sport and in all of sports, and to be able to see that at least one time, just that's very special. And I feel like you guys share that same sentiment.
Oh, totally. Well, a question we love to ask here, and you already did a great job, so you already pretty much summed it up. But where did the Celtics fandom initially begin? And you already kind of said it, but if there's any other details you wanted to add into there too on where it all started from, where did it all originate from?
Yeah, like I said, me and my cousin, really got me into it. Not just, the team itself, but also basketball. And I just, that team that we had at that time, even though we had lost in the 2010 finals, um, it was still, we still, had one of the best teams in the league. And also being able to watch those highlights, not just on ESPN, but also on Cartoon Network too. They were doing those, I think, Saturday morning. That was really cool. So I think that's what really made me be a fan, made me become more of a fan, being able to see those guys play as much as possible, even if it wasn't live.
And through your fandom, looking at the early portion of it, was there a moment that sparked your interest within basketball and the NBA and specifically the Celtics? Was there a singular game or a moment you witnessed where you went, this is for me?
Hmm, not sure. Maybe there maybe be a couple things, like the games I can think off the top of my head. When I was about 17, when we were in the conference finals, game seven, having to watch, again, LeBron putting the work on us. But again, seeing that team, even though they lost, they were still young, they were still learning, but they were the future and pretty much are the now, despite what's going on right now with them. That was a defining game for me. And I would say maybe any of the games that took place in 2022, or not just 2022, but also 2020 in the playoffs. So further showcasing that the Boston Celtics, this incarnation led by Tatum and Brown, we're going to be the future, and we're going to be here for a very, very long time. So I feel like those games specifically, even with some of the bigger losses, really made me say hey, this is for me. And I feel like when it comes to being a fan, especially in these big losses, you got to be willing to go down with the ship. A captain always goes down with their ship. So yeah, it's made me proud to not only be a basketball fan, but especially a Celtics fan.
And building more off that question, what are some of your favorite memories as a Celtic fan throughout your fandom, throughout all the years? What are some of the more fond memories you lean upon when you think back to all the great Celtics basketball that's been played over the past decade plus that you've witnessed?
I would have to say being able to witness, that original Big Four that I just mentioned, playing and doing so alongside, Kobe Bryant. So reigniting that feud that took place in the 80s. What else? Yeah, in some of the games that I mentioned, in 2020, the playoffs. Oh, mainly their feud with the Miami Heat. That has to be some of the best basketball I've ever watched, especially in 2023. That series where we were down 0-3 and then came back and, we had a very sour ending, but it was still worth having, in my opinion, the greatest series ever played in the playoffs. If it was possible, I would wish for those two to make it to the finals against each other. That would, because I feel like not only do they have really good chemistry, but they pair up with each other so well. So being able to see that feud play out throughout 2020 in the 2020s, especially in 2023 and in 2024 when we beat them, to me that was pretty emotional because of what happened the year prior. And of course, there was winning that championship. And even other moments like Al Horford dropping 20-some points, 15 rebounds, and 7 threes, and he's the oldest person aside from Kareem and LeBron to do that. Peyton Pritchard putting up 2 buzzer beater shots behind the arc twice, and the first one, happening in Game 5. So those were some very special moments for me as a Boston Celtics fan. And I think there are some other moments, but those are the ones I could really think off the top of my head.
And you mentioned the championship season in 2024. All of us have somewhat of a story of witnessing that championship from our own perspective. But what was your story witnessing that championship? Where were you the night the Celtics actually won the championship, and where were you throughout the run?
Ooh. So throughout the run, okay, I made it a priority to watch those games. It wasn't just those playoff games, but every game. So, when I really got back into basketball around the Isaiah Thomas era, I was still watching, but not as much as I wanted to. But I truthfully watched the Celtics play from that 2023-2024 season, from the beginning, from when they had to do battle with the Knicks to the end of that regular season, because I knew that was our year to win a championship. They went all in to get Kristaps and to get Drew Holiday, and something told me that this was finally their moment, because they've been at the door so many times, and they just needed the right pieces, the right tools to get past the door. And so not only I made it a priority to watch every game, or almost every game throughout the regular season, but I wanted to watch every single game, which I did throughout the postseason. So like I said, beating Miami in that first round, that was needed. Jaylen Brown, I remember saying after the Miami Heat made it to the play-in, or made it out of the play-in, saying hey, we already knew we were going to deal with Miami, and we wanted that challenge. And that gave me goosebumps. It made me know that this team was ready. And it didn't just show off of what he said in that interview, but it showed just in that first game alone. They beat them by 30 points. And sure, they lost the second game. But, this was this incarnation of the Boston Celtics that went on to, decimate them. Then they did the same thing with the Cavs, that Pacers series. And, as a Celtics fan, you'll probably share the same sentiment. Even though we swept that team, the most difficult series we had to deal with. They would not stop, and they were without Halliburton too. So it was, a very unique time, and it just really showed that the Boston Celtics actually cared and actually wanted to get this done, not just by beating Miami or with Al having that, immaculate performance in Game 5 against, the Cavs. Jaylen Brown's beautiful shot that sent that game 1 against the Pacers in overtime, and getting back to the finals. Kristaps having a legacy game, Drew Holiday doing the same thing in Game 2. Where I was at the time, I was at home. I was with my brothers, my sister, my cousins, who are also Celtics fans. I had just gotten us pizzas too. We knew that Game 5, we were going to close it out. It had to get done, and I didn't want to jinx it simply because anything could happen. And I love the Celtics, but there are times where, they do play with their food. And I remember when Peyton Pritchard had made that shot, to be going into halftime. My brother had turned to me, my youngest brother had turned to me saying, like, it's over. We won the championship. I'm like, dude, don't say that now. I didn't want to admit that he was right because, again, anything had happened, but he was right. And not because, hindsight of 2020, but that type of stuff, of course, hurts the, team having to witness that, especially in a playoff finals setting. So, yeah, that's where I was at. I was at home celebrating. I was kind of dramatic a bit, grabbing my title belt, not this title belt, but another title belt, and just like parading it around like, yeah, we're the champions, So easily one of the greatest moments of my life. Of course, what's the greatest moment that I've ever got to witness in 2024. So yeah, that's why I was, during that duration of that championship run.
Well, I
want to add on to this real quick when it comes to the championship run. So many stories. There are so many stories from Celtics Nation out there about people. The same story, the same concept of going, it's not over until it's over. It's not over until the buzzer is actually at zero. There were a lot of Celtics fans during that finals run, throughout that finals run, whether it was before the finals or even during the finals, that went, we don't care how much better we are than the other team, right? Celtics fans are saying this about the Celtics. Until that buzzer is at zero and we're holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy, those people weren't confident. Or I shouldn't say not confident, but they weren't celebrating a championship. I was on the other end of the spectrum, I got to say. I was on the other end of thinking the entire season, there's no way a team tops the Celtics. I don't see it. And yes, I could be coming from a biased perspective, but I see championship teams every year. There's a path for those championship teams, right? And we saw that path play out for the Oklahoma City Thunder last year, and the Denver Nuggets the year before, and the Warriors the year before that, and the Bucks and the Lakers. Of course, we can go so on and so forth. But there's always a path that plays out, and there's always a team that emerges at the top. And in 23-24, it just felt like it was the Celtics moment. But we had such a large contingency of the fan base. We had such a large contingency of the fan base sit back and go, oh, we know what happened in 2023. We know what happened in 2022. We know, going back into the history. I mean, look at 2012. Look, 2012, the Celtics are up 3-2 over the Miami Heat. And that series, I remember after game 6, or rather after game 5, going into game 6, the thought was, ooh, the Celtics, they're actually going to take out the Miami Heat here. And then game 7 comes along, or rather game 6 first. LeBron goes scorched earth mode at TD Garden. And then in game 7, we all know what happened there. The Heat eventually prevailed. But just all of those moments in the past, whether, 2018, the Celtics up 3-2 over the Cavs. There's so many moments where the Celtics, I mean, even in 2020 against the Raptors, they're up 2-1, and then all of a sudden, or rather, they're up 2-0. They could have been up 3-0, and then OG Anunoby hits the game winner. So all of those little moments that could have flipped the other way, it's like all those little memories were there in 2024 for Celtics Nation to hold on to and kind of be a little antsy at the end of it, at the end of the championship run. But ultimately, that team was just utterly dominant, looking at the top to bottom and who the relevant talent was in the league. But extending off the question of where you were during the championship run, unfortunately, we see the timeline in history. When you look into the future, the Celtics didn't quite follow up that championship run with a back-to-back title, and it was a rather underwhelming end to the 24-25 season. What are your thoughts, Carl, on the end of the 24-25 season? Where did you see the team at the end of the season? Obviously, the team, there was a rough patch in the middle, but the team finished strong before an eventual collapse in the semifinals. What were your thoughts during that time period where the 24-25 team, they were simply they were simply squandering their chances at a back-to-back title for the first time in Celtics history since 68-69?
Man, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I'd say the main thought would obviously be heartbreak, outside of, not being able to finish what was supposed to be like a very significant, unique, and I'd say beautiful goal in going back to back. We also had to deal with the fact that, unfortunately, Jason Tatum was out with that injury, having to watch that live against, historical rivals in the Knicks. And not only that, but he was about to put up 50 points and potentially take that team to a 2-2, series tie. So yeah, it was very heartbreaking. And yeah, unfortunately, it was kind of another situation of the Celtics playing with their food. The Knicks, the first 2 games up 20, and unfortunately, they come back and they beat us by a point or 2 points. And then game 5, happens. And I thought that was easily one of their best games that I've seen personally. And I'd say it was their best game in the playoffs. But of course, it didn't really do much aside from just delaying the inevitable that, the Knicks, just did them in game 6. And, as a Celtics fan, biased, I thought, hey, maybe the Celtics could pull themselves out of this mess without Tatum. I was wrong. And, it just, it was mainly heartbreak, not just because of what happened to Tatum, but this wasn't as dominant as this team was. They weren't as dominant as they were last year. It wasn't the same team. You know what I mean? It's very hard to come to grips with the fact that they lost 4 times. And I generally thought, like last year, I don't think there would ever be a team to, beat them 4 times. And unfortunately, the Knicks prevailed in that series. And it's just weird because, of course, after, what happened to Tatum, I instantly knew that, with the rumors already that we had to, make trades and all this and that, like I knew definitely the trades were going to happen after what happened to Tatum. And of course they did, we had to say goodbye to Holiday, KP, and we might have to say goodbye to some other players. Or we already said goodbye to Luke Cornett as well, lost him in, free agency. So that kind of adds more to the heartbreak, and not just us losing our star player, but losing the foundation, losing the team that was meant to take us to back-to-back, maybe even 3-peat, or the very least, I'd say give us like hints of the Spurs team from the late 90s to the mid-2010s. So, yeah, for me, it was mainly a heartbreaking situation.
Well, I have to ask this question, Carl, is what are your thoughts on the upcoming season, obviously now with the Boston Celtics and their new look roster? You kind of said it was such a heartbreak, and we obviously knew, but what's your thoughts on the new team? And obviously there's some names now too, like Simons we already got him. He might even potentially be on the move. So what are your thoughts on the current state of the Boston Celtics for the 25-26 NBA season?
Really looking at this team, it's honestly bizarre because, like I said again, we lost some of our key pieces that helped us to win that initial championship. And I forgot about Al too. Either he's going to retire or he's going to go over to the West playing with the Warriors. So watching this team, it just feels like the Celtics are almost in a position where they're a former shell of themselves. Because, they got Simons, who is a very productive player, and I think, can develop even more, especially on that defensive end, right? But Niang, I'm still not a big fan of that. I understand why he's on the team. I get it, money, the salary cap, everything like that. But I'm hoping, begging, and praying that Brad Stevens has some type of plan to move him, because I don't really see the value in Niang. I can completely forget about the whole situation that happened back in 2023 in the semis when he was on the Sixers grabbing Brown while he was on the bench. But I don't want him on the team. And it just feels weird. I feel like the Celtics will still be a productive team. Definitely not the same team that they were in 2024 and even last year. I'd say their ceiling would be still being a top 16, like being literally the 6th seed, and then their floor, or like maybe the minimum, being a playing team and somehow getting themselves in the playoffs after doing battle with who they have to deal battle with in the play-in. But also speaking with that too, it makes me think about Jaylen Brown and how he's going to have to really carry this team because this is the first time he's been given this assignment. Jason Tatum has always been the go-to guy, and with him being out for the entire year, it's going to be very interesting to see how he leads this team. And not just him, but also Derek White. And yeah, I feel like Derek White is also going to be the de facto second option because initially he wasn't even supposed to be like the third option of the team. That was supposed to go to KP, but he got hurt a lot. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how those two manage as the de facto leaders, mainly Brown, for this team. It's not to say Brown wasn't the leader, but of course he was never that number one option, even when he won Finals MVP in 2024. So seeing this team, it is weird, especially when, you had the highest of highs with that previous team. And you're really thinking about, like, what can this team accomplish throughout the season? Because I feel like they'll still be productive enough to go for the playoffs. I don't think they're going to tank. I think, knowing Joe Mazzulla, he's very stubborn. and, JB is the same way. And most of the guys, who are still on that team, who are on the championship team, are that way as well. So I don't think they're going to do that. Instead, I think they're going to fight until they can't fight any longer and then prepare for Tatum's eventual return.
And we have to ask this question before we ask the question afterwards. How involved are you in watching Summer League?
I really wish I could have watched more Summer League because I did see some highlights, but I really wish I could have watched like the full games. So yeah, I mainly caught highlights through either, looking them up through the real app or catching some highlights throughout YouTube. And I feel like, really getting involved. I wasn't too involved, but I still kept up with it as much as I could. Seeing Taylor Shireman, even though, he is one of their main guys, he wasn't doing too well. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be reflective of what he's going to do in the regular season because he was productive in the regular season as well. And Jordan Walsh played really well too. But I'm mainly a fan of Hugo Gonzalez. Like, once I saw how he played before he got there and after he got there, he can put up no points at all. As long as he keeps up with defense, rebounding, and hustle, I'm all in. So, yeah, I really wish I could have watched more of the Summer League. But I kept up with it as much as I could through, watching YouTube highlights and finding some through the lab.
Well, I would say you answered the second question there because it was going to be about how do the young guys look at Summer League, in which you pretty much explained right there. But go ahead, Griffin. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask too, were there, obviously, like you said, you didn't get to watch a whole lot of it, but were there any other guys that you kind of liked too, or mainly Hugo Gonzalez? Was that the only guy kind of that really caught your eye? Were there any other guys that stood out to you, or just kind of him?
Yeah, there was also Charles B. And it's unfortunate that, he's not on the team anymore, even though I would say he was kind of the best player on this team, aside from, Walsh. I know Amari Williams, he was pretty cool as well. Kenneth Lofton Jr., although wasn't particularly the greatest, he was still somebody that I was keeping my eye on. I've seen, obviously we've watched him going from Memphis to Philly and then had a small stint in Utah as well. And I really want to see him be able to realize his full potential, especially with our team, because who knows, maybe he can be a guy that could be very helpful for us in the near future, because people look at one thing but don't really see that this guy is actually really, really talented. So that's another player that's also been very, eye-catching for myself.
And this is kind of an off-the-track question, but recent rumors came out that the Celtics could be interested in Ben Simmons. All right, what are your thoughts on the Celtics potentially inking Ben Simmons to a deal in the future?
Funniest thing is, they actually had this rumor, like, I guess way before there were even, talks about making those big trades. So even before the playoffs, if you were to ask me this question, whilst we were the defending champions, I would have said, no, we don't need Ben Simmons. We already have a perfect team. And, I'll admit, I judged him based off of what he did, in his later years with Philly and with the Nets. Not as productive as he could be, but now, honestly, I would not mind having him on the team. Not just in getting rid of Niang, but also in getting the necessary defense that we need. He's big, and we need more rebounding too. I feel like that was a main thing that really hurt us during that series with the Knicks, is that we did not have that much rebounding, despite the fact that we had some of our bigs in there too. So I feel like Ben Simmons could factor into being somewhat of a good piece for us. Not just because of his productivity, but again, I don't want to be on the team.
And it's at the point right now with the Celtics where any talent the Celtics can possibly grab off the market for cheap, it's worthwhile. Because we think back to 2021, the Celtics, they inked Dennis Schroeder to the taxpayer mid-level exception, which at the time just seemed ridiculous for Dennis Schroeder because he was making around $5 million, which Dennis Schroeder we know is probably a north of a $10 million player, and he was inked at $5 million for the Celtics back in 2021. The Celtics can ink Ben Simmons onto a minimum contract or even part of the taxpayer mid-level exception. That could be a worthwhile acquisition for the Celtics into next season or even beyond when Tatum comes back into the lineup. And I'm not saying Ben Simmons will be a part of the core or anything with the Celtics, but could he add to the depth the way he did with the Clippers last season? It's possible Ben Simmons could do that in Boston. And I want to point out, too, with Ben Simmons, this has been a rumor for years all of a sudden. Since 2021, the Celtics have been interested in Ben Simmons. So when I hear it today, I go, oh, there's some executives, there's some front office members in Boston that certainly have kept their eye on Ben Simmons over the years. Again, I don't expect him to receive a massive role in Boston, but during a reset year and during a time where the Celtics can recalibrate a little bit, maybe welcoming in Ben Simmons to a winning culture and a culture that's also going to build his game and bring him along could do some good both for Ben Simmons and of course the Boston Celtics. So I just had to ask about that Ben Simmons rumor because the Ben Simmons fiasco in the NBA over the past couple of years has really captured the at least on the initial onset captured the eyes of the NBA world, but then ever more so, he's just kind of faded off the map. But the potential is still very much there, especially you mentioned with the rebounding, the defensive upside, the offensive game, the shooting, that's always going to be an issue. But in terms of his playmaking, that's still there. Ball handling, it's definitely dropped significantly. Not the ball handler he was in Philadelphia in terms of his actual usage. But what we've seen in the past, what he can do with the ball in his hands, and potentially next season, if the Celtics do ink Ben Simmons to a deal, maybe there's a world where he plays alongside Jaylen Brown, Anthony Simons, Derek White, and the rest of the Celtics core and can slot in. And especially considering he's played center before, and the Celtics, they need a center, of course. But moving on from Ben Simmons, though, because Ben Simmons, I mean, we've given way too much talk to Ben Simmons on this program before in the past, so you got to move on from him. But looking at at Celtics history, we've gone through the recent portion and some of the past, but we like to do near the end of our segments the all-time Celtics starting five, and we like to do it from the fans' perspective, right? So, Carl, who is on your all-time starting five for the Boston Celtics?
Good question. Oof. Okay. At my point, gonna take Rondo. Part of me wanted to take Bob Cousy, but I'm gonna take Rondo because he was insane. Right there with him, I'm gonna take Owen. Small forward. I'm gonna take Tatum. At my power forward, I'm always going to go with Kevin Garnett. I think he's the greatest power forward there ever is. If not him, then Tim Duncan, but I'm always going to stick with Kevin. And then for the center, I'm going to go with Bill Russell. So yeah, that would be my starting five. It would be Rondo, Allen, Tatum, KG, and Bill Russell.
I have to ask too. we always ask this as well. Who's your favorite current Celtics player and favorite Celtics player of all time?
Mm. Favorite current Celtic player have to be Tatum. I mean, yeah, pretty much given there. And then all time, I would say KG. Yeah, like I said, very aggressive and just he was just so great for us that first season when he won Defensive Player of the Year. And personally, I felt like even though Paul Pierce, fantastic and is a legend in his own right in Celtics lore, I felt like KG should have won Finals MVP. I felt like he was the better player there, and he was probably the most important player for on that incarnation of the team. So yeah, I would say all time Kevin Garnett.
I love that. And I wanted to bring up this as kind of my last question. So you sent me this picture of the Celtics belt. Can you pull that out for us? Can we see that and tell us about it?
Sure. So this Celtics championship belt. Oh, let me just my apologies. Give me a good look.
No worries.
Right here. So the WWE ran a promotion for not just the Celtics and the NBA, but for pretty much all sports where they would have all of their teams, getting their own championship belts. And they did this starting last year. And I knew that I wanted to get the championship belt, especially with the Celtics, winning their championship. So I waited, obviously saved up as much as I could. And eventually I did go out and buy this championship. And I was going to parade it around, when we went back to back, but, that didn't, end up happening. So, I'm waiting pretty much until we go ahead and win another championship so I can parade this around going back to the parade in Boston. So, yeah, that's pretty much the story behind this belt is WWE, promoting the NBA, the NFL, NHL, and all of these other sports leagues as much as possible. I wanted to get one for myself, and I got it.
I love it. Well, again, Seamus, do you have any final questions to add on before we close it out?
No, I don't believe. I mean, well, to be fair, we could have a million questions on here about the upcoming season, Niang, Simons. We have a million debates to get to on that front, but I'll save those for maybe a later date, I will say.
Totally. Well, again, you guys know the drill. We are on to the next interview. Thank you again, Carl Mcdonald, for joining. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Griffin and Seamus, so much for having me. It was a pleasure. It was so fun.
Of course, thank you. Welcome back. We got Marty the Meatman now joining us on the podcast. So you guys know the drill again. So Marty, tell me, first of all, give a little intro to everyone at home watching this, if you don't mind.
Sure. Like Griffin said, I'm Marty. Oh, damn, winning. I'm Marty the Meatman.
Happens all the time on this program.
Yeah, I know. StreamYard, you're like, oh no. I'm Marty the Meatman. I'm active on Twitter and the Celtic space a whole bunch. I have my own podcast, shameless plug, but cross court coverage, audio podcast. You don't get to see this face too often, but I am on whatever streaming website you listen to podcasts, so feel free to check it out, but also subscribe and follow these guys because they're doing a great thing here. I am a loudmouth, trash talking, not very sailors kind of tongue when it comes to the Celtics, but I'll do my best to keep this a PG program if we need to.
Oh, we're good. If if things happen, like I slip sometimes, say some F-bombs, Seamus does some F-bombs,
Oh, whoa! I don't know. I don't bring me into
I
this.
don't think we say the F-bomb.
I'm FCC friendly. I don't know about that.
All right. Well, anyways, a question, Marty, we always start off with too is where did your Celtics fandom originate from? We ask this question all the time, and we love hearing the answers. So where did it all begin?
So for me, basketball was a love before the NBA. Like I just picked up the sport, played it, in gym and grade school and middle school, and was in the Catholic youth organization because I wasn't good enough for the school team. But we had our local intramural, whatever, 3-time champion. No humble brag. But For the Celtics themselves, I started watching the NBA early 2000s, and I was a big Shaq fan, loved like everything about him. And then this guy Paul Pierce, if you can't tell, he's got a jersey behind me, but this guy Paul Pierce happened to have a very big headline about being stabbed 11 times, and surviving it, and then playing 82 games that season. And I wasn't really tuned in the Celtics, but I was like, that's badass. So then I started keeping tabs on Paul Pierce. And through that, got to love Paul, got to love the Celtics, started buying more and more into that. And then started to realize, oh, the Celtics aren't that great. Like, Paul Pierce is great, but they're kind of a struggle bus. And then they go and get this tall guy from Minnesota named KG. And they get this shooter from the Supersonics named Ray Allen. And I was like, hook, line, sinker, you got me. Like, we got a big three. This team's going to win a championship. Lo and behold, they do in 2008, and the rest is history. So a slow transition into buying in, bought in when the big three was built, and haven't looked back since.
And you mentioned the entire history of your Celtics fandom. Throughout that history, what are some of your favorite Celtic memories that you can think of? I mean, obviously you started out before the Big Three era, but saw the Big Three era, and then after that, there's a lot of history to behold afterwards as well. So, what are some of your favorite Celtics memories throughout the history you've witnessed?
So, I mean, obviously 08, obviously 24. The two championship years in my lifetime were amazing. Being able to go back and kind of like learn about Larry and learn about Bill Russell. Although I didn't get to witness it, it's still great history. It's rich. It's amazing. But moments that I saw, the IT years were electric. Even though the team wasn't exactly great, we were still competing. We were still, at the bottom to the middle, getting into the playoffs and everything like that. Marcus Smart being drafted, Jaylen Brown being drafted, JT being drafted. Like, I loved Danny Ainge, and then he traded Paul Pierce and KG, and I had to swallow that pill and be like, oh my God, my franchise guys are gone. But to see the guys who they drafted and kind of buy into it, and then see them develop, like the whole saga of JT and JB has been my favorite part, honestly, as like an adult fan. Just watching the Celtics. It's just watching these young guys like, oh, Kyrie's out. Oh, Gordon Hayward's out. This team has no chance anymore. Oh, they're at the conference finals because these two young guys are great. Like, and from there on out, you're like, this team is awesome. So it's just been kind of like storybooks, like, chapter in, chapter out. We won't talk about 2013, 2014 because like no one needs to. But, everything besides that stuff has been an amazing ride, and the championships are amazing, but I've enjoyed everything Celtics for quite some time now.
And you said a moment ago that the hook, line, sinker for your Celtics fandom was the big three formation, but is there a memory on court or a game that you can remember that really drew you into being a Celtics fan and made you go, ooh, this team is for me?
Yep. It was in 08. I already was in love with Paul Pierce, and I liked the addition of KG. I liked the addition of Ray Allen, but I didn't know too much about him because I wasn't watching, like we didn't have NBA TV or League Pass like we do now. So I didn't get to watch many out of market teams. So KG also helped me buy into the Celtics because there was the one game where they played against the Knicks, and he was shit talking. He was just John in Carmelo's ear the whole game. And he at the end of the game, Melo's outside of the locker room waiting for KG, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, this guy got in his head. And then you hear that he was whispering to him like, oh, Lala tastes like Cheerios, and he's like, what? So I was like, this guy's a savage. I love him. Like, KG, you're great. Paul Pierce, you're great. Ray keeps shooting threes. I'm in. Like again, hook, line, and sinker, like that. Just like, it's just moments like that where you hear something crazy and you don't expect it to come from these guys, and you're like, no, you're my favorite now.
And I tell you what, that big three, it was hard to every fan went back and forth between the three, because it's like, all right, everyone loved Paul Pierce because he was the original guy, drafted by the Celtics, brought in. All right, everyone loved Paul Pierce. But then you had
Kevin Garnett, who is just an animal, Ray Allen, who is, and my brother, one of my older brothers, he actually continues to say, I don't care that Curry has the record, Ray Allen is still the best 3-shooter of all time. So you hear them go back and forth between the big three. But the question I have for you is, obviously here are some pictures of you in Boston, obviously, and you got yourself right in the Garden. And a question I have is, tell me, what's it like being at the Garden? Now, some listeners we have never been to the Garden, so I like hearing, your first time ever at the Garden, or just what it feels like to be there.
Yeah, I mean, the Garden itself is electric. You can feel the history. You can, you look up and you see all the banners, whether it's the Bruins or whether it's the Celtics. You see the retired numbers, and you just kind of get goosebumps. But even for me, being a diehard Celtics fan for as long as I have been, the first game that I actually got to attend was in like 2022, just because I never had the means to get there. I never had, access. Now that I'm in Connecticut, I'm closer. I have, a girlfriend who's amazing and is a Celtics fan, so we can do that together. So that makes it easier. And just going to, 2022, I watched it was a game that we should have lost and we ended up losing, but we should have lost in regulation time. JB shoots like a Curry range 3-pointer, like not even looking, like just hucks it up and goes, F it, hoops over there somewhere, and it lands. And I was like, the Garden explodes, and that's when I knew I was like home, and just the vibe and the cheers and everything about it. I was like, oh, okay, like I've been a couch Celtics fan. Now I need to get here as often as I can, because I need this in my veins like every day. Like it is just a serotonin rush and like so fulfilling. And now, like I said, me and my girlfriend go, so we don't really buy each other like Christmas gifts or Valentine's Day gifts. We get Celtics tickets. Like we mutually agree, like we're going to the game. We're going to see whoever we want. And now we've even moved it away. We're not like, oh, we have to go to a game near Christmas. Oh, we need to go to a game in February. We're hand picking who we're playing against.
So is it like too, are you guys the type of people that are like, hey, let's go on the Christmas Day game? Or are you guys still with family? Or are you the people that were like, all right, we're going to the Christmas game. We're going to Easter. Don't worry. Like Christmas can wait till we get home. We're going to the Christmas game.
I would love to go to a Christmas game, but I love my mom more and I love being alive more. So
that's fair. Yeah.
As of right now, I'm avoiding the Christmas games as not to upset Mama Bear.
I want to say too, for everyone watching this, please leave a comment down below if you know someone who attended a Christmas game. I'm guessing a lot of the fans are family, if I had to guess, because you think about it. Oh, like I would love to go to a Christmas game, but if I called up my family and was like, "Hey guys, I'm skipping Christmas today," they would kill me. Yeah, you're right on that. You are completely right on that. Well, another question I want to ask too, and I loved your answer to what it's like being at the Garden, because that is what I felt. Just the day I walked in. The day I walked in, I felt the music pounding, and I just fell in love with the team. So, a question I have to ask too is, how are the fans there? And you understand this, the energy there. You've said you went to quite a few games so far now.
Yeah.
So have there been moments when you went where the energy is way up here, but then also way down here? What's that like, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, the Garden is very much on the pulse of the game. I think that if, the guys are slumping or the guys are having a rough night, the fans are feeling it. We're kind of quiet. We're kind of like, we'll go along with the DJ, and if they're doing the cheers and everything, it's there, but it's quiet. But if the boys are cooking, then that place, I'm surprised they still have a roof, because honestly, this place should be a convertible at this point. But it's absolutely one of the coolest places to go. I've had a lot of luck and a lot of, gratitude for who I've met there. I've run into the chicken hat guy and the Celtics leprechaun, Aztec Gino, green hair guy, GRD. Like I've just, I one, do this, talk about the Celtics weekly, but two, like I'm just a big old fan. Like at the end of the day, like I see super fans, or I see fans, or I see anyone oh, you're wearing a Brandon Bass jersey. Like, how long have you been a fan? Like, what? Or like, I'll see someone wearing a Kyrie jersey. I'm like, you need to retire that like right now, or duct tape Peyton Pritchard over it, please. But like, it's all in love, it's all in fun, and it's a great fan base. Like everyone, says like, oh, the Boston fans are so rough. I've never had a bad interaction with anyone from any other fandom in TD Garden. And maybe that's just a me experience, but I've talked to Laker fans, I've talked to Heat fans, I've talked to Rocket fans, I've talked to people from other fandoms, and I think they are there for the experience as well. Like TD Garden is one of one. It's the best garden in basketball. Sorry, Knicks fans, but it is. And yeah, like I said, it's an absolute, it's a powerhouse. It is a generator of electricity.
And what do you think drives that passion in Boston fans specifically? Because we look at other sports markets out there, and it's just not the same, right? It's
Yeah.
just not the same as it is in Boston. And I understand people will say, oh, well, usually when a team's good, that's when fans actually pop out and show up. But when a team's bad, that's when you see fans kind of, you think about the Homer Simpson meme, they start, fading away into the bushes, right? They start fading away into the bushes. But ultimately, I think in Boston, the fans, what the expectation has been over the past 25 years or so, right? That expectation has been winning, and some of the fans and their demands drive that winning. So it's not just simply the teams winning. I mean, the fans have a lot to do with the winning as well. What do you think drives that passion within fans when it comes to any team in Boston, including the Celtics?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, it's the history, not only with the teams themselves, but the city itself. It's the site of the American Revolution. We, flipped the middle finger to the Brits and said we're going to be our own country. So we kind of have that attitude where, like, we're a little bit better and whatever. You can take that how you want it as any other fandom, but I'm talking to Celtics fans right now, so I'm going to, chirp and be a little up on my high horse. But I think it's really the history of the city, the history of the teams, the success of the teams, and also, like I said, when you go in there and you see the banners and you see the success and you see like the past and, look to it and go, oh, like maybe this team, like maybe this year where we're not so good or we may not be as competitive, you still look up at the banners and you go, we have that spark, we have that fire inside of us. And even if it's a down year, there'll be another year where we're going to be chasing a banner. So I think it's both history and hope. And probably the ghost of Red Auerbach, beating the drum of like, we don't lose, like we are a championship team.
And speaking of championships, the Celtics obviously before last season, and well, last season the Celtics were defending champions, but obviously before the last season, 23-24 NBA champions. And you witnessed the '08 title as well. What was it like seeing the Celtics win championships in 2008 and 2024? And specifically, what was the 2024 run like for you?
So 2008, I love and I appreciate and I think it's great. But I wasn't as conscious of a Celtics fan. I wasn't as like bought in. I was actively buying in. And then I watched the team win and I was like, good pick, Marty, way to go. Like dust off my shoulder, like got the right team to root for. But 2024, one, I had started my podcast, so I was actively covering the Celtics and the NBA. Two, League Pass made me watch like, I'd probably say 60 games out of the 82. And then watching every, series in the playoffs and gentleman sweep, and then we're in the finals. And I was lucky enough, I by the grace of God or whatever higher being it may be, my girlfriend's father was like, okay, you guys he's a Knicks fan, mind you, but he's like, you guys are such diehard Celtics fans. The second we lost game 4, he's like, they're going to win in game 5. You need to be there. And he set us up. Like, he was just like, you're going to be in the nosebleeds. I don't care, but you're going to be in the building. So I got to sit there and one, hear the boos for Kyrie, which, they were amazing. And two, watch the confetti fall. So 2024 has a giant, like, forever spot in my heart because one, I was just so bought in and so on top of like every little thing the Celtics were doing, but two, just being there and seeing the electricity and seeing the banner, like not the banner, but the confetti fall, the trophy get announced, JB win finals MVP, like one of one experience. I'll probably never do it, like be able to do it again, but
Don't say that. I think you might. I think you might. I think there are more championships in the future. You got to manifest that.
There is.
You got to manifest that.
Well, a question I have too, and you already talked about the success of the Boston Celtics, and at that time, I think alongside you, I was at my peak too, and I'm like, wow, this team's gonna keep winning championships, and we're just gonna keep rolling and keep going. And by the way, I think obviously in a shortened way, because I'm sure you have already talked about the whole offseason on your podcast. So after you're done with that episode, go check out his podcast because I'm sure you've broke it all down for everyone as well. But
yeah,
what are your thoughts on the current state of the Boston Celtics? Obviously Luke Cornett, adios, signed with the Spurs, Kristaps Porzingis, and obviously getting the minivan now, and Drew Holiday, and obtaining Anthony Simons. What are your thoughts on the current state of the Boston Celtics, though?
So I have a phrase I use a lot, and I am not at this level, but I call it Chicken Little fans because they're like the sky is falling. So the Chicken Little fans are going crazy right now, and they're a little justified. Things are going a little south, and we did all these things to get below the second apron, and thank you, Brad and the NBA for making me learn about the financing and how all this works. Like, thank you for homework. But how do I feel about the C's? I mean, Tatum being out sucks, and we don't know his timetable. And that's going to be a big part of like what's going to be like, is he coming back in the regular season? We don't know. Is he going to be ready for the playoffs if we make them? We don't know. I think JB's amazing. I mean, I'm rocking his jersey right now. JB can lead a team, and I think that, it's always been 1A, 1B with JB and JT. And now he's finally going to get that chance to be like the guy in the driver's seat, the guy who is leading the team. Derek White's amazing, so I have faith in him. Anthony Simons, I don't know. We'll see. I think he's maybe, a leverage piece, especially because we're still somehow in the second apron. And that $27 million is very tradable on a 1-year expiring deal. Unicorn for minivan trade, not great. Georges Niang has gotten a lot of hate, and like I get it. He's been like kind of that chirpy, chip on your shoulder kind of player for every other team, but you want that on your team. So we have him. So let's kind of accept that. Overall, with how this team is constructed, I would like to see one more move, which would involve either cutting somebody or because we don't have roster space, but either cutting somebody or trading somebody and bringing Charles Bassey in because he was on fire in the summer league and also backed up Wemby, backed up Embiid. Like we have a hole at the center spot right now because I don't think Al's coming back. I think it's retirement or Golden State at this point, but we'll see. But I think we're a play-in team. Easy as it is, like I think that that's like the low-hanging fruit or like the floor. I think that we could surprise people and still be like a middle road playoff team, but I think at the worst, we're still a play-in team. I'll take it from an experience that I had 2 years ago. I went to a April game. The starters all sat after like 5 minutes, and I watched basically the main Celtics for 3 quarters, and they beat the crap out of the Hornets. So our bench guys can compete with NBA talent. I'm not worried about that. I'm just, we got to see what the top end can do without JT and without some of the supporting pieces that we, unfortunately had to move on from.
And you mentioned Charles Bassey in there, and the Celtics, they're just now coming off their Summer League run out in Las Vegas. What were your thoughts on the Celtics out in Las Vegas this year in Summer League?
I mean, if Jordan Walsh doesn't get ejected, do we go for the championship of the summer league? Maybe.
That is a great question to ask.
There's a chance there. There's a timeline where maybe we're summer league champions, and then people stop hating on this offseason. But a couple guys shined. I think that Jordan Walsh himself has been great in the summer league, has been great through his development. I'm excited to see what he's going to look like with more minutes in the rotation. Hugo, there's something to figure out there. He's very raw, but he's also very young, so I'm not worried about it. We're great with developing young players. Who else? Amari. We didn't lose a game without Amari playing. Every game that Amari played, we won. The one game that he didn't play, we lost. So there's that. I don't know if it necessarily means anything, but it's good for his, stat line or his.
It's good propaganda.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good headline. But yeah, I mean, the summer league team, it's also one of those things you take with a grain of salt. Every team's playing mixed talent, whether it's like veterans who aren't going to be in the league or super young guys who are going to be in the G League or maybe at the tail end of a roster. So it's fun. It's always like a nice get back into basketball. Like we've been off for 2 months now, I feel like, or maybe a month and a half. When there's no basketball, I lose track of time.
we're almost exactly halfway through the off season.
Yeah,
we've been off for 2 months, and we have about 2 months to go until the season. So we're right there in the middle. We're right there in the middle of the desert. We're making it through.
Yeah, no, I call this the dog days of the summer because now we have nothing. The summer league's over. We're like seeing any like trickling in stories or any like, oh, this two-way guy got signed. You're like, wow, what news? But we make do.
I know, and then you'll have that news, and then you'll cover that for like 2 weeks. You're like, oh,
yep.
This little move is something we can a little kind of leech on to,
Yep. Let's make like 17 headlines out of one roster move.
Right.
But it's what you got to do.
This will be the time of the year where you spend 1 week talking about two-way transactions, and then say last year a bombshell comes out like Karl Anthony Towns, and you go, why were we talking about two-way guys for a week when these guys exist? And it's just a reminder of how all the news cycles go.
That, and also Shams loves to kind of like pull one over on me, and we personally don't know each other, obviously, but anytime I like drop an episode, there's like a bombshell news or story that drops like the same day. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Oh,
like, come on.
Us here, the worst part is we'll be live during it.
I'm saying, Griffin, that's not the worst part. That's the best part.
Yeah,
that's the best
I'd rather
part.
be live.
No, but Seamus, you've known there's been so many situations where we're in the middle of a recording that's completely irrelevant, and then we're like, we gotta pack this up and start recording, and then we're recording for the next like 2 days and nonstop. But
this is the danger zone. I'm telling you, for news right now, this is the danger zone.
This is danger zone. No,
we always. I'm telling you, almost every single Celtics transaction this summer, we've been live for. Amazing.
Fair enough.
Like just like
Seamus,
I swear.
I'm saying we gotta stop talking about this. Because it's gonna happen.
Something's gonna come up right now.
I'm looking at the screen over here, going,
making sure.
Well, I'll say this: there is some news. I mean, it's not Celtics related. Elijah Arenas, the USC's top recruit, might miss all of next season. I don't know. That's some news. I don't know. That's some news. But nothing like we've seen with Porzingis, Drew. Everybody, Luke Cornett, Luka Garza, Minot. I mean, we've caught all these guys.
Oh yeah, all the time. Well, going back to the Celtics fandom, though, a question I have is, obviously you already kind of summed it up with Paul Pierce being your favorite all-time Celtics player. Maybe there's a sleeper one. Maybe you're like, oh, Bill Russell, but I don't think so. So Paul Pierce being your all-time favorite Celtics player, and who's your current favorite Celtics player?
So my current favorite, like I knew this question was going to come, and I wanted to be like, Sam Hauser, but obviously that's not truly the answer. It's Jason Tatum. Just watching the kid come in at 19 and what he's done and how he's developed and how he's changed his game. He went from being like a skinny, lanky kid to a muscled up guy, and he still has his 3-pointer, but he can also drive to the hoop. He's worked on his post game, like just watching him develop. And all while still being like a great father figure and like a great example of what to be as a man in the NBA. Like, hats off to him. I'm a little bit of a Tatum stan. I remember when he dropped the JT ones. I currently have all of them except for the all whites. So I have like 20 pairs of JT ones.
we got all of these JTs right here. We got
Yep.
way too many. Way too many.
And then Nike actually Jordan Brand, I guess somehow found out that I was buying all these JT ones, and they mailed me without me knowing the JT2s, and was like, time to start your second collection. I was like, you bastards, like I can't keep spending money. But also one other cool thing about JT is that I personally didn't, but because of my actions, got to receive 2 signed Jason Tatum hats, which I actually have right here. But New Era was doing like a Twitter thing. They were like, retweet and comment. And I was like, oh, easy enough. I retweet and comment. And then I tell my girlfriend, I'm like, oh, retweet and comment. And they comment right under hers and go, you won. So we have a signed championship hat. Where's the signature? There it is.
No way.
Signed 2024 championship hat. And then also the signed, oh, don't want the case to fall apart. A signed Team USA hat as well. So these things sit on my mantelpiece and I stare at them and smile all the time.
I got you. I got
sick.
Fanatics. I had to. My sister got me this for Christmas a couple of years ago, but
that's amazing. I love that. You got to get a case. You got to protect that thing.
I need to. I know. Cases are expensive. I know. I'm gonna say a story kind of off the top of my head. I was talking. Seamus and I were on call, and I went to a store trying to find a case for my Jaylen Brown jersey, and I was like, I might as well pick up a case for the basketball too. $90 for nothing special about it too. Nope. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
It's
like
ridiculous.
At this point, I might as well go buy a JT case online. Like,
yeah,
might as well go to the scrapyard, find yourself some glass and some wood shavings,
just
and try
make
to throw yourself something together.
Yeah, I know. $90. Wow, that was a little crazy. So
yeah,
I'm working on
those cases were like 40 a pop. I know what you mean. It ended up being 80, but I was like, we got these hats for free and they're signed. I'm putting them in a box.
Might as well. That's how you. No, I'm doing it. I gotta keep that safe. I gotta keep that safe.
That's the thing. Like, if anyone breaks in, take my Xbox, take my TV,
yes.
Leave the JT hats and shoes, please.
leave my signed stuff alone. You know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's replaceable, but I'm not getting those back. I'm not getting those. Well, another question I have too is I want to know. So, Seamus, you asked this question, the starting five, because you love this one. You love this one.
Well, of course. I mean, I'm sure you're prepared for this question. We do the all-time starting five on here. We have everybody give out their all-time Celtics starting five. So, Marty, who's in your all-time Celtics starting five?
That's tough. That's a hard. I mean, with a team like we have, like if we were Hornets fans, I could do that real quick. With the team like the Celtics,
or Grizzlies fans,
yeah,
Marcus
exactly.
Gasol, Mike Conley. It's like, is Dylan Brooks in that conversation?
He might be. And Tony Allen, who they got from us, but whatever. My starting five for the C's all time. I think I'm gonna go for the one, Mr. Basketball. We're gonna go Bob Cousy. For the two, the two is always the tough spot. I might say, and give me hate or drop comments below and say I'm wrong, but I'm going with Marcus Smart. I got love and trust on the brain. I love that guy. I appreciated Tony Allen and everything that he was, but Marcus Smart, ran. Tony Allen walked so Marcus Smart could run. So, although he's in a Lakers uniform right now, not loving that, but he'd be my two, normally a one, but we'll put him at the 2 guard. My 3, we're going to put Larry. My 4, oh no. Oh, I already messed up. No, we'll go 3 Larry. We'll stretch Paul Pierce to the 4 for some reason. We'll go small ball. Or maybe we'll move Larry to the 4 because he played power forward. That actually makes sense. We'll put Paul at the 3, Larry at the 4, and then the 5. I mean, we have so many great options. I want to say Bill Russell. You could say Kevin McHale. You can say KG, but at the end of the day, I'm going with the guy who won all the rings, who changed the history. I'm going with Bill Russell. So that's going to be 1 through 5. Kuzi, Smart, Pierce, Larry Bird, and Bill Russell.
I love it. I love it.
No, and before we're gonna ask the favorite starting 5 after this, but before we go on to that, do you believe Marcus Smart? Do you believe the Celtics will retire Marcus Smart's number 36?
I mean, Banner 24. Well, I'm getting way ahead of us.
Couple years from now.
Yeah. Banner 18 doesn't happen without Marcus Smart, and a lot of people are gonna be like, he wasn't on the team. No, I understand that, but I think that Marcus was key to developing JB and JT. I think he was like, a mentor and like a guide through the NBA for them in their young years. And then also the necessary evil was trading away Marcus Smart because it gave JT and JB the ability to become the leader. Unfortunately, your, 3rd or 4th best player on your team shouldn't be your leader. Marcus was, and I loved him for that because he was just a scrappy guy. But passing the torch via being traded and making it so JT and JB kind of had to lead the locker room now is why we won Banner 18. So long-winded answer for I'm cool with it. I would love to see 36 up in the rafters. I'd love to see him back maybe, on a vet min in a year or 2 or maybe 3. And then we can go and win one, and then he'll actually have a reason to be up there for all the people who are like, you didn't win a championship, your number shouldn't be retired. Like, we'll get him back on the roster. We'll win another one. Don't worry.
I love that.
And you had Marcus Smart in your all-time Celtics starting 5 list, but for your favorite, your fan favorite all-time starting 5 for the Celtics, who's in that list for you?
All-time favorites. I mean, like, I can get weird with it. I mean, Shaq is one of my all-time favorite Celtics because we finally got him. He was a fraction of what who Shaq was, but having Shaq on the team was amazing. And also it was great because my brother is a Miami Heat fan and he loves Shaq. And, seeing him on the Celtics, I was like, we got Shaq. And he's like, that's not Shaq. That is a shell of the human being. So we'll put Shaq at the 5. Why not? We'll put Scal at the 4. Because I love some Brian Scalabrine, some White Mamba. That's how you get through your regular season games.
Sorry, my cat just jumped up onto my lap. had to put her on the program for a second. Yeah,
I didn't know if you were like, this is Scalabrine. I'm going backwards for whatever reason. But then 3, let's put, we'll do Jared Sullinger. I appreciate everything that he did and everything that he was and how bad that team was around him. And he tried. And, I'm leaving out JT and JB because, like, they're number 1 in my heart right now. But I'm trying to go, deep, reach into the fan faves. Tony Allen's going to be my 2 guard. And then Rajon Rondo for number 1.
I love it.
I just got to, I've been a Celtics fan for so long. There's so many easy, low-hanging fruit answers. I got to pick the guys who have always made me feel something. And even when they left or even when they retired, I'm like, I remember you.
I love it. Well,
you stuck with me.
Listen, that's one of, I have to say that has to be a top tier fan favorite right there. Gotta add Shaq in there too. But my final question for you, and I know you'll be good at this because you already said some encouraging words, but we like to ask this every once in a while. So a lot of Celtics fans are upset right now, and they have a reason to be. I mean, you could see they lost a lot of key pieces. So my final question for you is, what are some uplifting words to Celtics fans who are disappointed about the team, and encourage them to come on the podcast and talk about their own Celtics fandom, and encourage them that it's still okay to be a Celtics fan because that's what we all love.
First, I'm going to give tough love, and then I'm going to buy into that.
That's
Tough
fair.
love first. If you were a bandwagon fan and you were like, wow, they won a championship and that's amazing and I love the Celtics, and now you're upset that the Celtics are going to go through a rough patch, hop off the wagon. We don't need you. Thank you. But if you are a Celtics loyal, if you bleed green, if you love the Celtics, if you've been here through everything, look at the gaps. We had a 16-year gap from 2008 to 2024. And, you know, we've competed. We've been in the finals. We've been in the we've been in the playoffs. We've been in the finals. We've competed almost every year in that run, even when we've had bad rosters. So while things may look bleak and you may not be happy that Luka Garza is our starting center right now, maybe it'll be Charles Bassey, but we'll see. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. It's a big, bright green light that's going to be shining on another banner. I don't know when it's going to be, but there's always another banner coming. We have the most banners in the league. We're not letting the Lakers catch up to us again. I'll tell you that much. We're getting 19 before they get 18. So if that's something that you need to fire you up, to light a fire under your ass and sit there and watch the Celtics this year, then I'll be the guy to give you the kick in the butt.
Well, I gotta say, Marty, thank you again so much for joining us. Everyone go check out his podcast and go show him some love. What's the podcast again? You gotta let everyone know so they go check it out right now.
I will, but first and foremost, I want to thank you guys. You know, you've been doing a great fan series. I've been like keeping tabs on it and watching it. I love what you do on Instagram and YouTube. So again, like, comment, subscribe, click that bell. I finally get to say that because I'm not on YouTube.
Love it.
But then also you can check me out. I'm on Twitter. I'll never call it X. Sorry. At the Meatman 253. The podcast is Cross Court Coverage, and it's on Twitter as well at NBA Cross Court. Cross Court Coverage is on Spotify, Apple, Deezer, all these other podcasts. We're broadcasting wherever there's ears. We're putting it out there. So tune in. Keep up with these guys at Celtic Nation Rise because they're doing great stuff. Thank you, Griffin. Thank you, Seamus. I'm glad that I could hop on here and chat a little bit. And this was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. And I have to say, for everyone at home, thank you guys for watching. You heard him right there. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified every time we upload. Again, fan series, make sure to comment down below if you guys want to be a part of this series. And yet again, he said it as well. Turn on that bell to be notified every time we upload because, again, it's going to be crazy all off season with uploads, obviously breaking news and everything. And we will have you covered here at Celtics Nation Rise and Celtics Talk Weekly. So, again, like and subscribe, and we will see you guys with the next one. Peace, guys.